Alright, we are going to make some goulash, and in order to do that you need a few things. About a pound of ground beef. You can see here I have 612 grams from my local farmer, and we're going to use some rosemary, some oregano, some thyme, a little bit better than 2 cups of elbow macaroni, some oil, more on this in a minute, some salt, and some parsley flakes, and of course some black pepper. Now back to this oil that we're going to use today. You may not be able to read that label, but it says 22nd of November 1998, made by, well, my name on there. And inside you can see all kinds of herbs like rosemary, and I can't even remember what all is in there. This is the last bottle of some Christmas gifts that my wife and I made 11 years ago. We made a whole bunch of bottles of herbed and spiced oils and vinegars, and this is the last bottle. You can see on the top we melted some paraffin wax and some crayons actually to seal the top, and in a moment I am going to unseal this. It's corked with a real cork, and we're going to try this oil to see how it tastes after 11 years. Oh yes, and of course I forgot something. I forgot the onions. We cannot have a good goulash without onions. Now you'll see here I purposely have one that's kind of skanky on the outside, and it is a little bit softer than you'd normally want an onion to be, but you know what, there's a lot of good onion that's going to be inside there, and we don't waste things around here, so we can just cut that skanky stuff off the outside, cut it down the middle, and see what's skanky on the inside, and probably there'll only be a little bit to throw away, and the vast majority of that onion will still be quite good to use. And I have a mason jar in there just for scale. It's a 1 pint 500 milliliter jar, and that means we have 1 medium onion and 1 large onion here. Oh yes, and one more key ingredient I forgot is the diced tomatoes. This is 1 pint, about 500 milliliters, that we put down in the fall of 2006, and they are still perfectly fine today. Alright, like I said, most of that onion was actually pretty good. Only a little bit on that one side was skanky. The rest of it is fairly firm. It looks like it'll be fine inside. There's what got wasted, only a very small amount. You'll notice that although we do cut a lot of things directly on our hardwood countertops, that we do not cut onions or meat directly on the countertops, because we don't want that soaking into the counter. So, normally you may want to dice your onions according to the size that you like in things. You can see here we have them chunked fairly large. The reason is that in this house our boys don't like to see onions in things. They will eat onions, the flavor they don't mind at all, but if they see them they will not eat something. So if they see onions in my goulash, they probably won't eat it. So into the mini chopper the onions go, and we are going to puree the lot of them. Alright. There we go, a wonderful onion puree. So, in order to grind your pepper, you may want to use a standard pepper mill. And certainly we've got 2 or 3 of them, or probably even 4 of them around here. But sometimes I like to be fancy and I use a pestle and mortar. We have several pestle and mortars in this house, and this is my favorite one for doing spices. It's made out of cast iron. There's a little insert for it. Goes together like this, and it's really wonderful for grinding up pepper. Alright, Just put a little bit of pepper in there. Probably more than what we're going to use for our recipe. But you can always store it in a container for a few days, and even if you grind enough to use for the week, it will still be very fresh at the end of the week. Oh my goodness, that smells wonderful. All that freshly ground pepper. Now I am just going to put a funnel in there and dump it all in. Give it a little tap. You can see it's not that much pepper at all. Probably about enough to do for a week maybe. Just right. Okay, we are going to start off by frying up our beef. Now this is frozen, so we're going to put it in our skillet on very low heat for probably a half an hour to thaw it out. You will notice this is wrapped in butcher's paper. Butcher's paper does an extremely good job of keeping meat in the freezer. We once recommended our farmer to some friends who said the meat was fabulous, but they really didn't like the idea that they had to repackage it all when they first bought it. And I said, well, why in the heck did you go ahead and repackage it all? Some people think that just because it's something that was done 100 years ago, that it's not as good as today. Well, guess what? Butcher's paper is way better than what's done today. We use plastic today because it's cheaper, and big companies can save a lot of money by using cheap plastic instead of butcher's paper. Your meat will keep just fine in the freezer with butcher's paper. So we have it all unwrapped here, and we are going to turn this on to about 2, and in it goes. Just, whoops, put the lid on, and we'll check it about every 5 minutes for the next half an hour and crumble it as it thaws out. Okay, while that beef is thawing and cooking, I am going to open up this oil and see what it tastes like after 11 years. First, we have to cut away the wax on the top, and I really shouldn't be handling this sharp knife with one hand, so I'm going to have to put down the camera. There we go, 11 years later, and there's the cork, and here's the corkscrew. There we go, it's open, and let's see, after 11 years. We'll give that a smell. Oh, that smells wonderful. Let us have a taste. Ooh, very nice. It's held up well after 11 years. I think we'll enjoy this, cooking with this oil over the next little while. If only I kept good notes back then. I see lots of rosemary in that bottle, and I see some green onion, and I believe I see some garlic down there, and some black peppercorns. Well, what we'll have to do is we'll make some more of this stuff sometime soon and show you all how to do it. And you can rest assured that it keeps well for at least 11 years. This is the last bottle of it that we've had. Alright, let's check in on our beef and see how it's doing. You can hear it simmering away there. It's actually softening up a little bit on the top there. We'll just give it a flip over. Can I do this with one hand? Let's see. There. Now, this is the way I do my beef, is I flip it over, peel everything off the bottom that can be peeled, give it a little chop up like this, chop it up, and we'll leave it flipped over and put the lid back on for a little bit.